Hi, you see this style right here? Let me show you the best way to sew it if you like it. So this is the fabric I'm going to be using to create this style. And this fabric right here is 2.5 yards, okay? And this is by 45, it's not by 60. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to go ahead and then cut out this part from on top of the fabric. So right now, this other area that is left is where we're going to be starting from. And at this point now, I'm just going to mark out the full length of my trouser. So the full length of my trouser is going to be 45 inches, okay? And that's what I'm having here. So the next thing is for me to measure out my waist circumference. So right now, waist circumference, I'm going to be making use of my hip circumference to mark this out. So I have 40 on my hip circumference, okay? So I'm going to divide that by 4. It will give me 10. Then I'll add 2 and it will give me 12. And that's what I'm going to be marking out here. So the reason why I'm using that is because I'm going to be using an elastic on the waistband so that I can be able to drag it down and it can pass through my hips downwards, okay? So from that point that we mark, I'm going to be marking down 3 inches, okay? So that 3 inches now is going to save as our band area because I'm not going to be adding any band to this. I'm just going to be including the band there at once. So the next thing you're going to do is to connect that line to the center front and then connect this other point here to meet that 3 inches line. From the 3 inches line, mark down to your hip point, okay? That's where your hip stops. So for me, mine is 9 inches and that's what I'm marking out. I'm going to mark it over on the other side and then I will use the ruler and connect the lines together. Now from the 3 inches line, mark the distance between your waist to your crouch line. So mine is 15 inches and that's what I'm marking out. So the next thing is to label this line. So this is my hip line and this is my crouch line. So the next thing is to divide your hip by 4 and then mark it out there. So right now, mine was already marked out on the waistline, which is that 3 inches line. So I'm going to be repeating the same thing also on that particular line, but I'm going to be adding 1 inch to that. Then on the crouch line, I'm going to repeat the exact same measurement I have on the hip line on the crouch line. But at this time, we are going to be adding 3 inches in front. So just know that you can add any amount that you want on the crouch line, okay? Just to have the allowance. So the next thing for you to do is to go ahead and connect these dots together. So once you're done, it's time to draw out the crouch line curve. So this is what you're going to do. On this area that is showing like this triangle, you have to mark 1 inch inwards, okay? Then you're going to connect that the first dot down to that 1 inch and then down to this other dot here. The next thing is for you to go ahead and then cut it out. So after that, place that front pieces on top of another folded fabric and then cut out the back part. So the only difference between the front and the back is that when you're cutting out the back, you're going to be adding 1.5 inches around it, okay? So if you can see, the other side is a bit longer than this other one. So that's because I added 1.5 inch around this point, okay? So that's the only difference between the front and the back piece. So by the time I was done, this was the only thing that was left for me to use and cut the front piece. And as you can see, it's not even enough for me to use and cut the front piece. So we are still going to do something about this, okay? I'm going to combine it with something else so that it can be enough for me to use. So to cut out the front, I've already done this off camera. I've already drawn out this basic body skeleton off camera. So if you don't know how to do this, I have a video on my channel that's going to show you exactly how to do this. So you can check out this video here. But I'm still going to be explaining what I have here for you. So this line here is the shoulder line and this is the neckline, okay? So this other part here is the armhole, okay? And now this is the chest line. So I'm just going to write here CL indicating chest line. So this line is my bust line and this other line here is my under bust line, right? So the next one here is my waist line. So now this line that is in between these lines is my nipple to nipple measurement. So I hope that is a bit clear. So that's just what I have here right now. The next thing is for us to find the midpoint at this shoulder depth. So right now I'm going to be folding my tape like this into 2 and then I'm going to mark that point down. Then I'm turn it over like this and I'll mark 1/2 inch inwards. So the next thing is for us to go ahead and then connect that 1/2 inch to the shoulder point, alright? So why I'm doing this is because just in case you want to make use of a yoke, because what you're going to be cutting out is not going to even get to this point. So after connecting that line, just go ahead and then connect these lines like this towards your chest line. So these 2 lines are just connected now, just form the front and back armhole curve. So the next thing is for us to mark out our dart. So what we're going to be doing now is to subtract our under bust from our bust, okay? That is what we're going to be using to have the dart that we're going to place on this line right now. So this is a little illustration. So right now my bust is 35 inches, okay? and my under bust is 29 inches. So I'm going to subtract this 35 inches from, yes, 29 inches from 35 inches. I'm going to have 6. Okay, so now I'm going to be dividing this 6 now by 2, and it's going to give me 3. So now with that 3 inches now, I am going to be placing 1 inch towards the center front area, okay, while I'm going to be placing 2 inches towards the side area. And I'm also going to mark the same thing also on the waistline. Then I'll connect the lines to meet each other. The next thing is to connect this dot here from this point here down to the bust point, that line at the bust point. So I'm just going to do this like this carefully. I'm just going to connect that line slowly down to that point. So after doing that, the next thing is for you to go ahead and then mark this other line. That is the line that is towards the back armhole line. That is that line. You're going to connect that particular line directly towards that same line. But you're not going to get to the bust line. You're just going to finish off that line before you get to that bust line on the original line that you drew before. So while cutting, you're going to cut directly on this line and also directly on this other line, okay? That's how you're going to be cutting it while cutting this. The next thing is to connect these dots together, okay, so we can form our darts fully. So right now, I'm just going to go ahead and connect this other line to the other one. And then I'm going to just use my ruler just to straighten that out. Then on this other side, you're going to be making a curve, okay? Just like a bump on that there, just to make a little curve directly to the other line. It's not going to be a straight line. So if you have your curve ruler, just make use of it. I don't have one, that I'm making use of my free hands. So I'm just going to try my best to make sure that that line curves very well. So once you're done, it's time to insert your horizontal measurement. So I'm just going to divide your bust measurement by 4, and then you're going to mark that out. So I'm going to be marking that out directly on my chest line and also on the bust line. The next thing is for us to move ahead to the under bust line. So you're going to divide what you have on your under bust line by 4. Then you're going to be adding the extra 3 inches that we marked out. Then I'm going to go ahead and proceed and mark the same thing also on the waistline. So also I want to let you know that this waistline now is not directly your waistline, okay? This waistline is the distance, like the length of the top that's the length that you want it to be, okay? That is that waistline. So for me, I made use of the same measurements I used on the underbust on the waistline, but then I added 1 inch to that, okay, just in case. All right, so that does it. So this is for us to go ahead and then connect these lines together. So once I pick out this whole thing is going to come together. All right, so don't mind how it's looking like this right now. So that's just the next thing is for us to go ahead and then add 1 inch seam allowance around this. So on your bust line now, go ahead and mark out your nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. So what I have for mine is 4, and that's what I'm going to be marking here. So this is going to serve at the starting point of the top, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and then mark that out and then rule a line to connect it together. The next thing is for me to rule this chest line directly to the center front. So we can halfway to mark our sweetheart neckline and it will stop there. The next thing is to cut it out. So while you're cutting this out, don't cut everything, okay? Because we're going to be using this front pattern to draft out the back. So just watch how I'm cutting this. So I'm placing it over on a different piece of paper like this, and I'm tracing it out on the chest line. Very important because the waistline has already matched with the paper. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to mark that out here. And also while cutting the back piece, remember to add your 1 inch allowance so they can use that to insert your zip. The next thing is to mark your nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. So I'm going to mark that on that waistline and also on the chest line. Then I'm going to connect that line together. Then on the waistline, what you're going to do is to mark 1 inch on either side of that line, just 1 inch towards these sides, okay? And then you connect that line directly to the chest line, and that will form your dart for the back. So that's just it for the back piece. And then you cut out this excess from on top of the chest line, and also go ahead and cut out the back armhole curve from the front pieces, and then you can go ahead and then cut them out, okay? Because you're done with this, so just go ahead and then cut it out. So remember the front piece that I said that wasn't really enough for me to use and cut the front out. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go ahead and then draw this line like this, just a curve, just the same way you're seeing on the paper. I'm just going to go ahead and draw it out like this. down to the lower part. Then I'm going to label each one of them so I will not be confused. And then I'm just going to cut it out. Now I'm going to be using this smaller part I just cut out now to cut out in a different fabric from what I have. So right now this other remaining fabric is going to be enough for me to use and cut out these other parts of the pattern paper. For the back piece, I'm going to also do the same thing. So I'm going to fold it over like this, and then I'm going to draw a line from the chest line directly to the waist point. And then this is where I'm going to be cutting it out. But before that, I'm going to go ahead and then label them just so that I will not be confused on which one is which. And then I'll cut it out. So this is what the pattern pieces are looking like after I finish cutting them out. This is everything for the back piece. So right now for the sewing, you're going to start first with the trouser. So you're going to pick the front part like this, and then we are going to be sewing down from the waist down to where we have the crouch curve. So that's where you're going to be sewing first, and we are going to be sewing that with 1 inch seam allowance. So you're going to go ahead and do the same thing also to the back piece. So at this point now, you're going to be placing the front piece to the back piece like this, and then you're just going to go ahead and then sew down on the sides of the trouser, still using 1 inch. So right now you're going to be sewing the inner thigh parts of the trouser. So right now what I'm going to be doing is to join the crouch line of the front to that of the back. So right now what I'm going to be doing is to go ahead and then sew from the ankle part of the right leg down to that of the left leg. So the inches I'm going to be using to sew this is 1.5 inches. So you can use 2 if you wish to, but I'm using 1.5 inch for this. The next thing is to hem the lower part of the trouser. So right now I'm going to be using 1.5 inch to hem this down. So I'm folding my 1/2 inch inwards so that what I'm going to be sewing on top here is 1 inch. Okay, just like what you're seeing me do right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and then do this for both the left and the right ankle. So now moving down to the waistline. So remember this line that we drew earlier, the 3-inch line, sorry, 3 inches line. So that's the line that we are going to be using for this the waistband right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold the fabric like this on that 3 inches line. Then I'm going to fold 1 inch inward so that I can be able to use 2 inch to sew it down. So that's just exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that and then sew it around the whole waistline. But I'm going to leave out a little space so that I can use that space now to pass my elastic inwards. All right, so right now I'm going to be moving on to elastic I'm going to be using, and this is a 1 inch elastic. So right now my waist measurement is 29 inches, so I'm going to be subtracting 3 inches from that, and it's going to give me 26, and that is what I have here. So the next thing is for me to use my safety pin and then pass it through that little space that we left on the waist of the trouser. So I'm just going to use that and then feed it through that point all the way around the waistline. Then we are going to be sewing it down after that. So once you're done, you bring it out like this and then you take off your safety pin. Now once you're done doing that, you might notice I went ahead to place it like this, but once you place it like this, it is wrong. So don't place it like this to sew. Instead, open it up and then place it on top of each other like this. This is just the best way you can insert this. So just go ahead and then sew around this area, and you should have something like this once you're done sewing it. Okay, now as you can see, it's very secured and tight. So the next thing is just for you to drag it and it just sits perfectly inside the waist area, and then you just sew down that point and just close it down. So right now moving on to the front. So these are the front pieces I'm going to be sewing down, and I've already gone ahead to iron down my interfacing and a wording on this. So I've done this both on the little parts I cut out on another fabric and also on the main parts, both on the front and back pieces. But the back pieces you will not insert a wording, just your interfacing. So this is how I'm going to be placing them. I'm going to pick this one first of all and then place it over like this, and then I'm going to sew all the way around this. I'm going to do the same thing to these other parts. Then I'm going to open it up like this, and then I'm going to be attaching this one to it. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and then sew it around it like this. So that way it's going to be easy for you to be able to sew it down if you are doing the same thing like what I'm doing. So right now after that, you're going to go ahead and do the same thing to your lining. So after sewing it down, this is what I have so far. This is how the inside looks like after joining it. This is how it looks like. So just iron it out, and you should have something like that. Then also do the same thing to your lining and also iron it out. So at this point, I'm just going to place it over like this and then sew it down if you don't want to insert any straps on this or the hand. Just like what we see on the image doesn't have that hand, so you can do that for yours. But if you are going to be inserting a sleeve or a strap, just go ahead and do that now. So I'm just going to go ahead and then sew the back piece and attach them all together. So this is how the back piece is looking like after attaching it together. I've gone ahead to also iron this down after sewing them together. Okay, so this is what it's looking like, both the lining and the main fabric. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and then sew it around like this using 1/2 inch all the way around. Okay, both on the two sides. That's the same thing I'm going to be doing. Then right now, moving on to the front, I'm going to be inserting a strap on my own because I will not really feel comfortable wearing a tube out. I'm not really that person. So if you like to wear like that, then you can definitely forfeit this part. So I'm just going to place my strap here, and then I'm going to pin it down at this point. So guys, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please, I'm just inviting you to please subscribe to the channel and then turn on your post notification bell so that you will not miss out on any of our uploads in the future. So right now, after pinning it down on that area, I'm just going to go ahead and pin this other one down. Okay, the other straps on the other end. Then what I'm going to do now is to go take this to my sewing machine, and then I'm going to sew it all around here like this. Okay, and also I'm going to be sewing the lower part. Okay, just leave out the sides, just sew the lower part, then you're going to flip it or turn it all the way around. Okay, but right now, after doing that, I'm just going to go ahead and then insert these other parts, or before flipping it out or before sewing the down part, I'm just going to insert the straps to the back also. So this is what it's looking like now after I'm done sewing it down, inserting the straps. So this is what it's looking like also on that back piece that I was talking about. Okay, so once you do it like this, it's going to be very much easier for you, and you're just going to go ahead and then place it like this so that you can turn this over this way. I'm not going to be inserting a zip at the back, so I'm just going to sew this place down using 1 inch. Okay, so the next thing is to place it on top of each other like this and then sew it down on one side. And I'm going to go ahead and then insert my zip on the other part. So you can insert yours there or on your center back. So once you're done, you should have something like this, guys. So this is the final look. This is it with the strap and also without the straps. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please share this video, like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. What do you think about this other part that I inserted on this on the blouse, as in the yellow part? So guys, that is just it. Until next time, bye guys.